Hello there and welcome to the last lesson of Module 1. We're going to go ahead and get into it. So welcome to Lesson 3 where we continue building that foundation for your flipped classroom. If you're like me, you love this organizational piece, but I know that is not for everyone, so just bear with me in this as we will get to the actual work of flipping very soon. But I can't emphasize enough how crucial these foundational pieces are to setting up your year for success. So let's get to it. In this lesson, you will learn what a unit guide's purpose is and how to create your unit guides. First, though, we should probably talk about what in the world I mean by this term that I seemingly just made up for my purposes when I was flipping my classroom. I should mention that in my research long ago, where I spent an entire summer just learning what the flipped classroom was and all the options I had in making it happen, this was one thing that multiple sources mentioned as a guiding force in their flipping process. Each source called it something different, but the purpose is the same. It is a place for you to compile by topics, meaning most often flip videos, all resources, materials, and ideas you already have, whether you've used them in the past or not doesn't matter, and a place to dump ones you find in the future. You know, when you randomly find something and think, man, I hope I remember this exists when I get to that one unit. How likely is your very efficient but already overwhelmed brain going to remember that? Not likely. So this unit guide serves as a place to quickly dump and link and go back to where your focus should be right now. Remember all that work you did from our last lesson where you diligently took your huge standards and broke them down into objectives and topics that are more digestible for your students? Well, here's where you get to cash in on that. P.S. You'll be cashing in on this source multiple times throughout the school year, so you're welcome, I guess. This is where you need to open up a Google Doc or a word processor and get to outlining your entire course. A quick reminder, you probably have much of this lined up in a curriculum map or somewhere similar. I recommend putting it in another spot, separate from your map, so that it serves you when you go to flip, but could also serve your students, particularly if you teach the older ones, and can serve as a course guide for them more so than just a calendar. But that's up to you, and it is a decision you can make in a later lesson. For now, get to outlining. Here's what you need to outline. First, list out each unit title and even include the giant unit standard. Underneath each unit, list those topics that you established from preparing your calendar. Finally, under each topic, list the flip videos you will create. This is where you'll really make some decisions around what your, quote, lectures will be about. Again, many of you already have that knowledge and those decisions made because you've taught this course before, so just go with that. In addition to the videos, list out any and all activities that could apply to that topic. You have stuff to include here already, so go ahead and list it. But this can also serve as a place to dump anything you find in the future to fill up that extra class time you will find yourself with this school year. Lastly, how will students be assessed? And I don't just mean the unit summative assessment. Think of any other quizzes or formative assessments you will use. Let's look at an example. This is my actual unit guide for the first unit in AP Psychology. My first unit is actually 2 in 1, so you'll see that I have the unit titled up at the top as Unit 1 and 2. But then include the 2 major unit topics as Roman numeral 1 and 2 underneath each of those, including the major unit standards as given to me by College Board. So let's talk about what outline structure I chose from there. This can and should look differently for you based on your course and what works best for your brain. But I always like seeing examples in action and that have worked, so that's what I want to provide for you here. Under each major unit, I listed the topics with a leftmost indent. You can see that better under Roman numeral 2 because there are actually multiple topics under research where that's not the case under Roman numeral 1. Those topics are what I wrote on my calendar. In most cases, there is one video for each of those topics. Oftentimes, I break those down to shorter videos. Under each topic, then, you'll find those digestible objectives so that I am reminded of what it is I'm covering and what it is my students need to know when they finish this topic. Then you'll see what I call reference. But in hindsight, should have changed it to something like content or knowledge so that I better communicated to students that this is the stuff. This is what they are going to learn and learn from. So this category includes the avenues in which the content is delivered. In our case, your flip videos, but in some cases, as was mine, could also include other items like assigned reading or maybe even vocab activities or study strategies. Then you'll see required activities. These are the in-class activities, and maybe I should have just named them that students will do to work with and practice the content in order to get higher up on blooms, shall we say. Go ahead and list what you have done in the past here. It doesn't have to be perfect, especially if you don't plan to give these to your students. This is also where you should brainstorm and dump any activities or resources you find in the future as something your students will do in class. Cue your teachers pay teacher shopping and linking of activities. Am I right? Lastly, you can list those formative assessments that you'll give per topic. Now, you don't have to have one for every single topic. That depends on how much time you have and how much assessing you want to spend your class time on. But if you find yourself in a more data-driven district or find value in really knowing what your students know so that it informs your instruction, you probably have these up and ready to go. Keep in mind, we will be diving into this piece a bit deeper in a future module when we discuss what kinds of formative assessments will serve your flipped classroom best. Now, these last 2 points are quick ones because I spent most of the time talking about what those unit guides look like. But I want to mention them so that you feel free to do what is best for you in your flipping journey. Where will you keep your unit guides and what will you make them in? That's totally up to you. You could be in Google Keep. You could be an added column on an already existing doc or spreadsheet that is your curriculum map or course outline, or you can make it in a new document that stands on its own. If you plan to give this to students at the beginning of each unit, for instance, or putting it on your course website or learning management system, which I highly recommend simply in regards to checking off a component of your evaluation, but it's also great communication to students and parents, you'll want to make these a bit more crisp and tidy in appearance. But again, that's totally up to you. It might be a better idea to make these a rough draft that serve your planning purposes this year, but you can fine-tune and use it as a communication tool next year. Take it in chunks over the years. My last point in this lesson is similar, but different. It's about how you will use your unit guides. Again, this is totally up to you, and I'm kind of repeating myself, but I want to make sure I really hit it home. At its core, though, the unit guide is there to serve as an organizational tool to guide you in your flipping journey. It's also an ideas library that you can reference throughout the year when you feel you need more activities to hit a certain standard or have some extra class time to fill, and you want to make sure that you fill it with valuable stuff. Lastly, as I've mentioned previously, it can serve as a guiding tool for your students and even parents if you so choose. Again, that is a bit larger of an undertaking because it needs a bit more tidying and formatting if it will be distributed. So that might be a good task to accomplish in year 2 of flipping. But if that's something you want to conquer now and you have the time to do it, go for it. I fully support you. Alrighty, so that wraps up lesson 3 of our first module and the entire module. So in this lesson, you learned what a unit guide's purpose is and how to create those unit guides. And like I said, this wraps up module 1. When you've accomplished this take action piece that you see here, which is create your unit guides, even if it's just adding a column to your outline or curriculum map to start accumulating those materials and resources for each unit as you find them. And don't forget the ones you already have. Right? Once you've taken that take action piece, you need to reward yourself in some way. That was a big undertaking that was difficult for those of you who aren't all about the organizational side of things. Either way, you deserve a reward. Visit with friends and family, take a break, do some self-care. You totally deserve it. Now, next week, you'll be getting Module 2, and we'll be talking about what prerequisites are needed before you start creating your flipped videos. So this one's going to be more video specific. It's also kind of organizational and definitely planning. So I'm so proud of you. Congratulations again on this mini milestone of conquering Module 2. Reward yourself. You deserve it, and we'll see you next time.